Parsha opens, Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midyan Choten Moshe et Kol Asher Asa Elokim. So famous Rashi that asked the question, Ma Shmua Shama Uba, right? What did he hear that he came? That he came from Midyan and to be part of Am Yisrael. In fact, the Gemara in Zvachim has the Girsa Ma Shmua Shama Uba Benit Gayer. Okay, which he converted. Yitro converted. What was it that, there were a number of things that had happened already. So Rashi says, Kriyat Yamsuf u'milchemet Amalek. So he's heard about Kriyat Yamsuf and he heard about Milchemet Amalek. So there is so again, Gemara in Zvachim says, there's another opinion. Rabbi Eliezer HaModai. Rabbi Eliezer HaModai says, what did he hear? Matan Torah. But we haven't gotten to Matan Torah yet. That's only later on in the Parsha. So, very often we hear the concept, Ein Muktam Amucha b'Torah. Not every single event in the Torah is in chronological order the way it appears. And therefore, there is an opinion that says that even though it talks about Yitro coming to the Midbar to join Am Yisrael, even though that's put before the Parsha Matan Torah, it actually took place after. So you have two opinions. One says that he heard about Kriyas Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek, and one says it was Matan Torah. So in that Gemara on Rabbi Eliezer Modai, I'll just read to you. He says over here that what happened? How did Yitro hear about Matan Torah? Shenitna Torah Yisrael. So it says that when the Torah was given to the Jewish people later on in the Parsha, so there Hayakola Holech, Hashem's voice was heard throughout the entire world. It wasn't just at Har Sinai that they heard the voice. And therefore it says that the kings of the Gentile nations were gripped in fear, they were terrified, and they went and they said Shira. So then all of the Goyim, or maybe some of the Goyim, came to Bilam HaRasha, because they knew that Bilam was the one guy, or the one Goy I should say, who knew about matters of Hashem, matters of spirituality. And they came to him and they said to him, what is this voice that we're hearing? What is this noise? Kol Amon. Is another flood coming to the world? And then Bilam says back, Hashem lamabul yashav vayeshav Hashem melech la'olam. Then Hashem took an oath that he would never bring another flood. So then they said to him, maybe a mabul shel mayim, maybe a flood of water Hashem will not bring, but maybe he's bringing a flood of fire. So then Bilam says back to them, he already promised that he won't destroy mankind anymore. So then they said, so what's all this voice? It sounded to them like it was a calamitous noise. Like the end, it sounded like it was an Armageddon type of a sound, whatever sound that makes. Okay? And it sounded like it was the end of the earth, the end of the world to them. So Bilam says to them, don't worry, Hashem has this treasure that he was storing in his storehouse, in his treasure room, for 974 years before the world was created. He has this treasure called Torah, and he's giving it to Moshe Rabbeinu right now. He's giving it to the Jewish people. So then it says over here, Miyad patchu kulam va'amru. At that point, all of the Gentile nations said, Hashem yivarech et amoy bashalom. How beautiful. Right? Is that beautiful? Hashem should bless his nation with peace. Now, why was that the response? Hashem oz lamu yiten. That part they didn't say? They said that, yeah. In fact, yeah. Bilam said, Hashem oz lamu yiten, meaning Hashem is giving his oz, his strength, his Torah to his people. And they said back, Hashem yivarech zamav shalom. So Galinsky writes over here, it's very surprising. He says that the Goyim were not like singing Shira. What were the Goyim actually saying? The Goyim was saying, it's a Jewish thing? Okay, fine. We thought it was the end of the world. It's a Jewish thing. It's got nothing to do with us. Hashem yivarech zamav shalom. Let them be okay, Hakol gesund erheit, as they say. Everything's fine. Okay, it has nothing to do with us. I say that to my wife all the time. Whenever she brings up something, I say to her, it has nothing to do with me. Like when I want to shut down any it's got nothing to do with me. Okay. So it's like the Goyim said, The Goyim said, I'm not going to tell you what she says back, but anyway, so the what? She's not going to watch this. It's okay. So the Goyim said, it's got nothing to do with us. It's Hashem. Okay, that's between Hashem and his people. So that attitude is what all of the Goyim had except for Yitro. Right? Because when Rashi, when the Medrash says, what did Yitro hear? Vinit Gayer. Everyone heard Kriyat Yamsuf, everyone heard about the war of Amalek, and everyone heard about Matan Torah. Everyone knew about Kriyat Yamsuf because it says that the water piled up for miles high. Everyone saw the water split. Did everyone hear about Amalek? I'm not sure. I would imagine so. But certainly everyone heard the noise of Har Sinai, and everyone heard the noise or saw the miracle of Kriyat Yamsuf. And what's the non-Jewish response when they hear or see that the Creator, that Hashem Almighty, is making phenomenal miracles that have never been seen in the world before? That's got nothing to do with me. That's a Jewish thing. That's for them, not for me. I could keep going on my merry way. It reminds me of a story. I think it's in one of the Maggid books of Pesach Kron. So where he says there was a guy in the I think in the Russian army who was a secular Jew, and what happened was that they were called upon to be at a certain time at the jeep, and the jeep was going to then go and carry this platoon of soldiers to the battlefield. And there was one guy that when all of a sudden, you probably heard this story, yeah, about the snake, the cobra. So the guy's name was Sasha. What? I think. No, this is a different story. I'm sure there's a lot of stories like that. So as he was about to get his gear and go to the jeep, because he heard the announcement, all soldiers come to the jeep, we're about to head out. There was a cobra right in front of him that was angry. It stood up with fanning its body, and with a cobra you can't move, because if any slight move they'll bite you and you're dead. So it took like 20 minutes for the cobra to back down and go away. And by then his jeep was long gone. All of his platoon had already gone. And so he gets into a car after that, and he tries to catch up with the jeep. Of course, he gets there and he sees that there was an ambush, and every single person in his platoon that had gotten onto that jeep were killed, and he was the only one that survived. Because why? Because of the snake. It was the taxi, yeah. Yeah, I think it was in a taxi he told the story. Or maybe, or he had a friend. So what happened was, of course, this Sasha, did introspection, and it awokened his neshama, and he became a chayz b'tshuva. He became a religious Jew. And the fellow that Sasha told this over, could have been in the taxi. The taxi driver, let's say, that he told it over to, says, wow, it's amazing. So when I think Rabbi Krohn or someone asked the taxi driver, he says, if you were so impressed by the story, why weren't you chayz b'tshuva? How come you didn't become a religious Jew? He said, because it didn't happen to me, it happened to Sasha. It didn't happen to me. It had nothing to do with me. Yeah, but if you believe the story happened, and you see the hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so why isn't it impacting you as well? It's only going to impact Sasha because he's the one that lived through the miracle, but you saw it yourself. But that's human nature, right? Human nature is that the person that the miracle happens to, right, he is most likely to be moved and to change his life. But those that hear about it and are convinced that it happened, but because it didn't happen to me, okay, so that's it. Same thing over here, the Goyim. They saw Har Sinai, or they heard Har Sinai. They saw Kriyas Yamsuf. They saw miracles. So what if it didn't happen to you? How come you're not converting? How come you're not being Megayer? So of course we know that Judaism doesn't want converts per se. We don't proselytize, we don't look for converts. But again, there's no obligation for a goy to become a Jew. But the point is, but how could you see? It's a taina, it's a claim on the nations. How could you have witnessed Kriyas Yamsuf, and how could you have witnessed Har Sinai, and not be changed by it, not want to get close to Hashem. You're right, you're not obligated to convert and get close to Hashem. But how could you witness such a thing and not be moved to get closer to Hashem? And that is a criticism against all of them. The only one that did was Yitro. Yitro was someone who didn't say, oh, that's a Jewish thing, it's got nothing to do with me. He realized, no, if there's a God that could create a Har Sinai, if there's a God that could create a Kriyat Yamsuf, so then even if he's doing it with his chosen nation, I want to be part of the club, I want to be part of that nation. I don't want to be on the outside, and that's why he inspired himself to come forward. And it is a lesson, not just for the Goyim, but first and foremost, everything that is in the Torah is a lesson, not for the Goyim, it's for us. And therefore, we could also have to learn from Yitro, that when we see things, certainly when we see Hashgacha Pratis, when we see divine providence happening directly to us, for sure it should move us. But even if it doesn't happen to us, but it happens to another Yid, it happens to all. It's like we could water down any miracle. We've seen tremendous miracles over the past year, and a person could say, like during when all the missiles came over from Iran, right? So let's say if a person's house was, God forbid, hit by a missile, by one of the missiles, and they came out unscathed, miracle. Okay, so then you'd expect that person to transform his life and become closer to Hashem. But what do many people, what do many of us say when it doesn't hit our house? Okay, all it means is we were inconvenienced for 15, 20 minutes going down to the bomb shelter. I remember when Iran lobbed over the missiles, like a lot of them. There was a blitz, and I was here at the time. So I remember it was unusual because usually you go down, there's a siren, you go down to the miklat once, and then after a few minutes you come out and that's it. And I remember it kept happening 4 or 5 times. Every 10 minutes, another siren went off. And you're in the bomb, so you hear a lot of booms. Not like when it comes from Gaza. When it came from Iran, you heard on a different level. But then what happens is, Baruch Hashem, our houses were not hit. No one we know, their houses were hit. Baruch Hashem, everyone came out unscathed, right? There was not one death as a result of it. And so then what do we say? Didn't happen to me, right? Didn't happen to me, so I can keep going on with my merry life. We have to learn from Yitro that even when it happens to others, when it happens to other Jewish people, when the miracles are happening to other Jews, not particularly directly to you, but again, you see the Hashgacha Pratis of Hashem, how could you not come closer to Hashem as a result? So Be'ez Hashem, we should be zoicha to learn the lessons of Yitro. And when we see the miracles happening around us, it's even more than Yitro. Yitro saw them from afar. And he still said, you know what? If it's happening to them, I want to be a part of it. So all the more so when it's happening in our own backyard, so to speak. And even if it's not happening, Baruch Hashem, in our own backyard, literally, but it's happening in Eretz Yisrael where we're all living and we're part of. So for sure, it should arouse us to become closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.